How do I just press next? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As Sama said, my name is Nomkita Mbele from Fendeke Marine, South Africa, with James Fisher Fendeke. I'm happy to be here today, and I'm hoping that, sorry, I am vertically challenged. Doesn't matter how high my heels are, I always struggle. And I'm hoping that the conversation we are having today is going to be open. We're going to have real conversations. We're going to touch on the real issues that we are facing in the industry, and hopefully walk away with some sort of middle ground on how we can move forward, because the reality is that we can't carry on the way we are. We are all suffering. All corners of this industry is suffering. And so we're really hoping to move forward. I prepared a very long presentation, which I had to cut down this morning. I'm going to go through it very quickly. I'm going to skip some of the slides, which I feel are not so relevant for this forum. I should be very quick. As like I said, Fendeke Marine South Africa is part of the bigger James Fisher group. We are a level 1 BEE black-owned company with operational bases in Kucha, in Durban and Richards Bay. Our business is we are a provider of marine solutions to our customers in the energy defense and in the marine transport business. I'll focus on the marine transport business. We do coastal shipping, ship-to-ship transfers, terminal and port services, and shipping and supply services. We are the global leader in ship-to-ship transfers and major supplier of premium quality marine equipment. So that's our big focus as Fendeke Marine, is the marine equipment and the STS services, including LNG. So we have been in the space for about 25 years, hence we've earned our stripes as the global leader. We are operating with the highest safety and quality standards. We are approved by all majors in the world, and we are leading in terms of the space that we're in. Just a few stats I'll share with you. I said we've been in the business for 28 years. In 2022, we've safely transferred about 300 million barrels of liquid cargo without any incidents. And I think I want to touch to what Tembela alluded to earlier. I think it's very concerning that there's this perception that the bunkering and STS industry does not care about the environment and the impact on the environment. I think it's very important to reiterate that environment is very high in terms of agenda in a lot of companies, especially, specifically including ours. I would say that because our business depends on our safety record. So it is very important to us to make sure that no drop is spilled in the water throughout our operations. And I think if you look at those stats, our safety record speaks for itself. I mean, we have up to date conducted 45,000 operations around the world in our 40 bases that we operate in. I'm going to move very quickly in the interest of time, just to touch on our safety standards and our accreditation. We're accredited by ISO, the different ones, environmental management systems, and the quality management system, and our occupational health and safety management system. So why does STS happen? So I think I need to distinguish for benefit of this room. We are not a bunkering company. We do not do bunkering operations. We do STS cargo transfers. In fact, I would like to think that we complement the bunker industry. And there's various reasons that STS is needed. There's infrastructure in terms of terminal restrictions, so drafts, for instance, to avoid delays at the terminals, and lack of shipping. From a commercial perspective, it's cargo and fleet optimizing as a trading tool. So we break cargo for our clients as a trading tool. Floating storage, so replenishment of floating storage, blending of fuel, and the build of cargo or break bulk. And in terms of emergency, when there's a collision, sometimes we need to transfer the fuel out of the vessel that is in operational. If there's vessel engine failure, sometimes we would need to debunker or off-spec cargoes. So those are the reasons that STS needs to happen. So that just looks at our locations. We've got 14 locations around the world. So in terms of our operations, we've got three processes which we use for operations. We do at anchor, at sea at anchor with tags, vessels alongside each other, alongside the jetty, which is how we do. STS is presently in South Africa, double banking, and we do underway at sea. That's just the total time of our operations from the start to the beginning, about 48 hours. We're very involved in the industry that we operate in, especially from a safety perspective and from standards perspective. Fendercare always tries to operate above industry norms because we want to set ourselves apart. So we proactively participate in industry initiatives and committees. So we participate in the various industry forums with OPCIM, SIGTO, Interco, and to drive in raising the standards of this industry that we operate in. We are a member of OPCIM STS Focus Group. We've got technical engagements with leading STS operators and service providers in terms of products that we use. I'll skip some of these. So I'm going to start. This is the important slide. I've been asked to talk about the challenges that as Fendercare we have faced since operating in South Africa. Fendercare has been operational in South Africa since 2017 as an STS company and a products service company. And I'm going to talk to the challenges. I think the biggest challenge that we have faced is a moratorium that's been in place for the last 5 years and still counting. I think we all understand the importance of having things in place. We all understand that the bunkering industry took off and the regulations were sort of lagging and sort of going behind it. And I think initially we understood why there needed to be an environmental study in terms of protecting the environmental and understanding the dynamics around Alcoa Bay. However, we are now 5 years later, and we are still counting. I'm not standing here and saying it's 5 years and we finally move forward. And maybe somebody will answer that question, I don't know. But as I stand here, we are 5 years later, and I think that is such unacceptable for the economic growth of this country, for the companies to grow, for employment. 5 years is a long time for us to take to put that in place. Companies have been closed out of the market for 5 years, and I think we can do better as a country. The lack of coordination between authorities, I think that was very clear in the last segment we had with the different authorities having the different requirements in terms of operations, and the lack of coordination, which has maybe contributed to where we are. And that's been the biggest issue, is companies having to go speak to different stakeholders with different requirements for the same thing. And I think hopefully going forward, that is going to improve. The reluctance to engage with industry. I think that we have forums like this which are very helpful, and we speak about collaboration. And we live here feeling that, we've had a conversation and we are forming some sort of collaboration, working together for the betterment of the industry. But what we find, unfortunately, is that when we leave these premises and on the ground, that's different. The level of engagement that we leave these forums optimistic about doesn't quite happen on the ground. And I think that is something that needs to be looked at. that if we want to have these forums going forward where we're going to feel like we are making progress, it needs to translate all the way down to when we leave these forums and be able to knock at people's offices to say, how do we do this? How fast do we do this? What do we need for us to achieve this? That we get those answers, we get them quickly, and we work with each other to make things happen. The inconsistencies in the system. I think you go to different offices of whether it's TNP and SAMSA, in fact, and you look for different things, and it's always so different. If I want to do STS in Bucha, and I want to do STS in Richards Bay, and I want to do STS in Durban, it's so different. The requirements are so different. There's no consistency, there's no uniformity, there's no set standards that we can work on, knowing exactly what is needed for us to do. And that sort of delays everything because we submit what we think or what we know to be needed, and you find that there are different requirements at different locations. The lack of communication with the international community to manage the impact of local decisions. As you all know, we work in an international industry. The maritime industry, unfortunately, is international, are not isolated. And our clientele, 99.9% of our clientele, whether in the port system or in the wider STS bunkering industry, our clientele is the international community. So when we have issues like this in the country, where things suddenly stop and nothing is working, and there's no communication whatsoever from the government in terms of this is what's happening, this is the plan, this is how we go forward, that has a very detriment effect on our business going forward. Because even if we lift the moratorium tomorrow, it's going to take time for us to get our credibility back as a country. Because we've stopped everything, we have not communicated with the international community. And communicating is not me from a Fendicare perspective. I can try and appease my clients and communicate as much as I can. But if there's no voice from authority, from government that says, international community, we know this is happening in South Africa, we are working on it. We are facing challenges, but as a government, as an industry, we are working on it, and we are sorry for disappointing you. And when that doesn't happen, we then lose business to other countries. The loss of investment. Again, closing business out for 5 years causes loss of investment. A lot can happen in 5 years. There are companies, countries that want to invest in our businesses, and they can't. They can't because we do not know what the future is. We do not know when we're going to be able to operate again. We do not know what is going to happen. So we're sitting in a position where there is interested investment, the business case is there, the business model is there, but we are not able to do it because everything that is meant to enable us to do business is actually in our way of doing business. And we've been trying for years to engage, and we still find ourselves in this position. So we're losing investments. We're losing credibility in South Africa as a service industry able to react to industry changes. I think Kurt Russell also mentioned something about losing credibility, and that is a real story. We're not saying that because we're standing in these forums and we're trying to make a statement. It is a real story that we have lost credibility as an area that can service the international market. We are perfectly located as an area to service. We have the services to offer, we have the expertise, whether it's from the launch companies, whether it's from bunkering, STS, whatever the supply chain is of that industry, we are perfectly capable and able to. But we are losing credibility because we're not able to do what we say we can do. And we cannot tell the community, when are we going to fix our problems in this country? And that has really, really affected us negatively. So before I sit down, my hope again for today is that these real conversations that we are having are going to lead to something. I think as industry, we've always been open to engage with the government, to add our expertise, to add our voice, to help them along the way. But there doesn't seem to be the reciprocation of wanting to move things forward and engaging in a meaningful way. In a meaningful way, not in a way of sending emails or saying we are doing this and we will engage industry. Let us engage now. We do not have the time to wait. I think with that, I'm going to sit down before I get myself into any more trouble. Thank you, Summer.